Today's interview session, we're going to be focusing on English only, which means that we're going to be looking at just intermediate and advanced speakers. Okay, and then after you give your interview response, I'm going to take notes and I'm going to give you 2 rounds of feedback. The first round of feedback is feedback around the language or the grammar. And then the second round of feedback is going to be more focused on the content. Hey, are you there?
Hi,
So tell me a little bit about yourself. Are you currently a student or have you been working?
I have been working now. I work as a teacher in primary school.
Okay, perfect. And also, what do you teach?
I teach basically Chinese.
Why do you want to go through an English interview if you're a Chinese teacher? I'm just curious.
I teach mainly Chinese, but recently I start to teach them English, so I try to find some ways to practice my English and also interested in if I can skilled in other languages. That means I should teach international people Chinese.
Okay. So thank you. Actually, that was a very, very thorough response. You really gave me 3 different reasons for why you wanted to learn English. Number 1, even though you're a Chinese teacher, you recently started to teach your students a little bit of English. Number 2, you said you're just also interested in learning different languages. And then number 3, you said, this is where I'm going to give you a correction. You said,
if I can skilled in other languages.
You missed one word. If I can be skilled or if I can become skilled in other languages.
If I can become skilled in other languages.
Yeah, perfect. So if I can become skilled in other languages, I might have additional options in the future. The job that you're interviewing for right now is going to be for an English teacher. So we're just pretending.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about yourself in about 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is. I am currently working in a Chinese public primary school. I mainly teach Chinese. I'm looking for the opportunity to see if I can fit in. That's it.
That's it? Okay. So I'm going to give you a round of applause. Very good. I know this is all done without preparation. Now we're going to work on a little bit of feedback. First of all, we want to give it some structure. One easy way to create a self-introduction with structure is to use chronology, basically to use time. A good way to start off a self-introduction is to talk a little bit about your history, but only highlight the main events. For example, what did you major in?
I graduated with English.
Okay, so you majored in English.
I majored in English, but as I have been working for years, it's really hard to admit it if you...
Totally, I understand. That's okay. We're going to make it a good introduction. So my name is and I originally majored in English. And then you share a little bit about why did you originally choose to major in English. You can say, when I was younger, I was passionate about learning additional languages. Maybe I was a fan of the Backstreet Boys or I saw particular TV shows and I said, this is something that I'm very interested in learning and that I think will be useful for me in the future. That's part 1 to your story. Now, the second part of your story, tell me, why did you choose to become a Chinese teacher and not an English teacher? Tell me as a friend. We're not in the interview now. I just want you to be honest.
In China, if you want to teach in public school, you have to sit in certain exams. If you passed the exams, you qualified for the public school. But when you actually worked in the public school, they will tell you they don't have the
positions available?
The position available for the English teacher, but there are lack of Chinese teacher. They'll ask you if you can teach Chinese.
Okay. So you can say, first of all, I'm passionate about teaching. Now, you originally applied to become an English teacher, but they have certain quotas. Quota means there's a certain number of roles available. So maybe they say, our quota for this year is we just need 10 English teachers, and you're number 11. In order to stay in the system, I chose to teach Chinese. That's part 2. Part 3 is now a story about the future. I've started teaching a little bit of English to my students. I also still continue to be interested in learning English. I think this will give me a lot of additional options for the future. For example, maybe a role at your international school. This is a good self-intro. I want you to tell me, what are your strengths? What are your strengths?
I think one of my strongest strength is really have lots of patience with people because I have to communicate with different kinds of parents, and some parents they really made lots of troubles, and sometimes students have certain difficulties to deal with people, especially those who fight with other students. Even it's after school, I still have to work with the parents together to.
Very, very good job, by the way. One of your strengths is also your logic. Now that I've seen you respond to this question, we're going to first talk about language and grammar issues, and then we're going to talk about the content. Number 1, so you said, what are my strongest strengths is patience. Strongest strengths sounds repetitive. Usually in colloquial English, we want to avoid too much repetition. Instead, you could say one of my top strengths. Top strength. So use a different adverb to modify this noun. Then you said some parents made lots of troubles. The way you want to say this is some parents can be difficult. Some parents are difficult to deal with.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, now let's talk about the content. I don't give high scores very often, but your content was probably close to 90%. And I'm going to tell you why. When answering the strength question, the first challenge is I have to first figure out what my strength is, patience. The number 2 part is you talk a little bit about how did you gain this strength? How did you grow patience? For some people, they can say, I was naturally patient since I was young. And that's an okay response. But you mentioned how you had to communicate and deal with a lot of different parents and students. Number 3 is you share a little bit more evidence about how did you apply this strength at work. You talked about a specific example where if students get into fights, you have to manage this both during school hours and after school hours. Excellent. So you choose your strength. Where did you gain this strength? How do you apply this strength? That was very, very good.
Oh, I really feel very honored that you give me the compliment. Yeah. It's not often happened, especially in China.
I only give the compliment if you really did well. I gave you some corrections, but your logic is very, very strong. Appreciate that you guys are commenting and liking and sharing this voice room. Very valuable for continuing the development of the content. And if you guys have any other suggestions or feedback, feel free to shoot me a message and maybe I can respond to the feedback in future sessions. Okay, so that is it for today. Thank you guys very much, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.